Good morning from Panhandle Outdoors, America's only daily outdoor TV show. Your source for fishing, hunting, and information for folks who enjoy the great outdoors. Now sit back, relax. It's Panhandle Outdoors.
Good morning, folks. Welcome to Panhandle Outdoors. I'm Winston Chester. I'm so glad you're here today. We have a great show lined up and some really interesting things we're going over today. But first, our weather brought to us by Haney Technical Center at the corner of Baldwin and Highway 77. The first temperature we want to talk about is water temperature, because this morning, folks, it hit 79 degrees. That is awesome right there. I mean, it's really going up. It's going up about 7 degrees in about 3 weeks. That's strong. So 79 degrees, always looking for that 80-degree mark is a milestone for the year. So anyway, be aware of that. Air temperature is 86, high and low is going to be a 68. But now the big thing too on the tide chart, which is brought to us by Kent Forest Lawn, not much tidal flow today. Not much tidal flow the next couple of days, so you're sort of at the mercy of trying to find some good spots on your own without much help from nature. But I will talk about it later about how a lot of this bait fish have moved up into the bait system. I'm seeing a lot of it myself, and so that's a good sign. Our river reading is brought to us by Sandhill Seafood, home of good, fresh, local seafood. It's as simple as that. Just past Bozeman School on Highway 77, we're looking at the river reading today, Bluntstown 7.1 steady, not much movement to it. And the old timers, they want to get it below 5 feet. And I talked to one yesterday, old Jimmy Lovett. A lot of y'all know Jimmy. He has caught probably 100 semi-truck loads of brim and shell cracker in his lifetime, and he's still catching them. But we were talking about it yesterday. He wants to get down a little bit more. And the Choctawhatchee at Caryville is a 3.3, and it's steady. It's in pretty good shape on the Choctawhatchee. All right, let's take a break, and we'll be right back with our guest. All right, welcome back, and welcome to our guest this morning, Dr. Jeremy Sunseri. Good morning.
Thank you, Winston. Always a pleasure to be here.
Oh,
Love
great,
coming.
Great to have you. And the only problem with this, we're just going to run out of time, so we're going to get started. I've been trying to get Jeremy to come on because May is Skin Cancer Prevention Week, right?
Skin Cancer Awareness Week. Yeah.
Awareness Month,
yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
So that's what I want to get you on the month of May. So anyway, I've been calling the little secretary. Y'all been hustling.
We've been working hard.
He was working, seriously, man, I want me to say it, 9:30 the night before, 8 o'clock last night, and going in early and seeing a lot of people.
Burning at both ends. But
you really are.
It's a good problem to have, and I'm grateful for it. I certainly don't complain. My wife complains about my hours, but and my kids. They said, get on home.
Well, we got to get the hay in the barn. So
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So we don't have time today. One day when you come on, we'll talk about your rodeo days. I didn't realize you're such a big rodeo man.
Yeah, that's
And he's driving a big old rodeo truck. He's got a big old belt on, and but that's another story. Today we're going to talk about. It's humorous in a way, but it's sort of scary in a way too. And you got to tell this story. I was on the phone with him last night, and he was telling me a story about this catfish sting and all. And I was in awe. So I want you to go in the same detail you went in last night about this story about this catfish. Okay?
Yes, sir. Well, I told you I was going to learn saltwater fishing when we moved out here, and boy, I'm learning the hard way. So a buddy of mine, this started at a men's club meeting, he said, why don't we go fishing? And I said, well, when are we going to go? He said, how about tonight? I said, okay. So we ended up going fishing that night, and went out, and he had caught we were trying to catch redfish and some speckled trout. Well, we let that shrimp sit a little bit too long on the bottom, and next thing you know, a buddy of mine, Jeremy Bennett, had reeled in a catfish, and it wasn't a real big one. And I'd caught a lot of freshwater catfish, and so I try to just stay as far away from those slimy buggers as possible. And so what I usually do, and I know there's all kinds of proper ways that you're supposed to handle them, but what I usually do, which is obviously not the correct technique, but I take my foot and I just kind of slide that dorsal fin back with my foot, and then I hold a little pressure while I remove the hook and then get them gone. Well, I did that, but on this evening I had a pair of tennis shoes instead of my normal fishing boots. And the tread of the tennis shoes caught that barb on the dorsal fin, and it went straight up into my foot. It went in the bottom of my foot up to the top.
Oh.
And as you mentioned, when I was younger, I did a lot of rodeo, and my high school rodeo coach would always say, walk it off, you got to walk it off. So I felt that instant pain when I stepped on that thing, and the first thought was walk it off. Well, I took about 2 steps and I sat down because I was not walking it off. It was some intense pain. And I thought, man, that hurt. And then I thought, something is not right, because it hurt sort of what we call out of proportion from what I would expect from stepping on a nail or something like that. And so I sat down, and my buddy said, "You okay, man?" They said, "Let me help you inside." I said, "I'm going to take you up on that." So we go inside, and I sat on the couch, and I started sweating, and I felt like I was going to faint. And I've had a lot of pain, and it's not uncommon to faint if you have an intense amount of pain, but this was different, and I felt like something was wrong. I felt kind of sick, and at this point, my buddy Jeremy, he grabbed my wife and woke her up. It was about 11 o'clock at night, and he said, "Jen, you got to come look. You got to come help me here." So he said, "Well, what do you want me to do? You're the doctor." I said, "I don't know. Grab some ice." So he went and put some ice on it, and we wrapped it around the foot, and I sat there, and again, it didn't get any better. So I said, "I'm telling you, something is not right here. Can you get online and look up, because something is going on." So my friend pulls up the phone, and we pull up WebMD, and it says, "If the person being stung by a catfish is not breathing, administer CPR." So he and my wife got a little nervous, and after watching me, they said, "We got to get you to the hospital. It says put your foot in hot water." I said, "Okay." So first we tried that. We went and I ran a hot bath, and we put it in hot water, which turns out you're not supposed to do cold, you're supposed to do hot, which is something I learned. And so after looking at me for too long, they decided, "You're going to the hospital." I said, "I'm not going to the hospital. I'm a doctor. I don't go to the hospital." And so they ended up convincing me, because I was at that point concerned that I might die, because I really was sick. I mean, it was an impressive reaction. And so we get to the hospital, and they gave me some tetanus shot and did some x-rays, and couldn't see any evidence of the spine. But I learned that these catfish have a venom in their spine, and it's not real fun to get in your system.
Oh man! So that fin going all the way up through your shoe into your foot, up into there.
I still have the tennis shoe as a hole went right through it. Those suckers are sharp.
They didn't cut it out. It's still in your foot?
It's still in my foot. I have a little. It's still giving me grief, and I don't know if it's trying to come out, but it's still in there. This was about 5 months ago. And that barb is still in that, or something is. I don't know if it's just the reaction of the tissue to that, but it is still there. I can feel it, and there's still a bump there that I'm trying to work out here.
And you were talking last night about the intense pain. It was just intense.
I'm telling you, I've had a lot of pain. Like I said, if you ride bulls for over a decade, you're going to have some pain here and there. And I've had. It rivaled any pain that I'd had from rodeo. Oh, and but again, it wasn't the pain so much as it was just the feeling of sickness. I felt short of breath. I felt like I couldn't catch my breath. And I literally was thinking, I'm going to die from fishing.
Oh my!
That ain't right. That's a cruel trick.
That's a good way to go, I guess.
Exactly.
But and we learned that the smaller ones have more venom than the bigger ones.
Yeah, which I didn't know. But after going back and having this experience, I went back and read, and apparently they have a venom in the barbs of their tails, and the smaller the catfish is, the more venom they have, the higher proportion of venom that they have. And this wasn't a real big catfish, so maybe that's why. But I've heard of it happening a lot, but I'll tell you what, I've never seen anything. And I have the new release method that if I ever catch a catfish, I just release them with that, because I'm not messing with those buggers anymore, ever again.
That's good. Let's take a break. We'll be right back. Okay, welcome back. Here with Dr. Jeremy Sunseri. I know a lot of y'all are his patients now, so next time you go see him, don't take him in a catfish or anything. You don't want it, but y'all can talk about this. And the irony of last night when I was talking to him, within 10 minutes before I talked to him on the phone, he'd call me back, we'd play phone tag. On the end of my dock, ironically, I was just catching these right and left late yesterday afternoon, and this is what you stepped on right there.
That's right. That dorsal fin.
That's ironic. I just called it catfish. Now, okay, let's get back to what you paid to do.
Yeah,
we got to help
back
people
to work.
out. We got to help people out.
That's right.
I was fishing Saturday with my granddaughter. I was telling you, I was sort of caught off guard. I just wasn't quite prepared. I didn't have all my stuff. And in springtime, I guess we'll get like this for being out in the sun.
Yeah, I see a lot of these weird sun rashes from people in the springtime, and it's for that reason. I think a lot of people just, you don't expect it. It might be cloudy and overcast, and which is another thing that catches people off guard. Even if it's cloudy and overcast, you're still getting a lot of UV exposure. And so you go out and you say, it's cloudy, we're okay, and next thing you know, you got a bad sunburn.
I know. I fell on top of my head too, because I had this mesh hat on. I know better, but I just wasn't expecting it. Okay, so what? Let's get back to you're seeing a lot of patients. You're seeing a lot of patients because of the hours you're putting in. So what's going on? What are you seeing a lot of now? Well,
so many folks around here have had sunburns, and one of the things I always tell patients is, it's the one thing you want to avoid is getting a sunburn. And as most of you know, you've grown up before the days of sunscreen, or you've grown up even with the days of sunscreen, and sunburns are a common occurrence here, even for me and my family. And my kids go to school sunburned, and it doesn't look good for business, so I always try to tell them. And right now, my baby girl just spent the day at one of the water parks here, and she's got a sunburn. And I said, "You can't do this to me. Don't get a sunburn." But the main thing I always tell patients is avoid that sunburn. Use some type of, I like to fish with a cowboy hat. Sometimes it's impractical if you're going offshore, unless you have something to kind of strap it down with, but a broad brimmed hat is kind of the best thing. But a lot of the folks that we see, they get this, what I call field disease or photo damage. They spend a lot of time fishing, a lot of time outside, and they get these little scaly bumps everywhere. And we just kind of do a lot of, as much prophylactic treatment, meaning we just try to treat it before they become a big issue. And when they become skin cancers or big issues, usually it's not subtle. Folks know they have them. Sometimes it can be subtle, and it's the ones that can be subtle that we want to kind of keep an eye out for. And that's why at least once a year screening, especially if you're a fisherman and have grown up here fishing and getting sunburns, at least once a year screening. And sometimes, folks like yourself, maybe every 6 months.
Yeah. In fact, that's what I'm doing now. I used to go once a year and all, but now I go every 6 months. And he still don't take any pity on me, burn me right and all. But I mean, and I'm calling myself taking care of myself, but it's still things. I guess that's from many years of being outdoors.
Yeah, I usually tell people about 20 to 30 years. They say, "Well, I haven't been out in the sun in 5 years," and I say, "Well, this is from about 20 to 30 years ago, most likely." Yeah. And that's sun damage that you had, in the 70s. So. Yeah.
And we try to tell young people, and it's just so a lot of times it goes in one ear out the other because they just do not comprehend it. So I know a lot of those grandparents and parents and all, we got to work on these young people and just let them know that.
Yeah. And just be smart. It's okay to get outside and get a tiny bit of vitamin D, but don't get a sunburn. Make sure you're avoiding sunburn. Practice sun smart behavior. We recommend applying sunscreen every 2 hours. And that's a difficult task, I can tell you, especially if you're out fishing. Yeah. It's hard to get goopy sunscreen and start putting it over, all over your body. And especially if you caught a bunch of fish, the last place you want to put that sunscreen is all over your face. So one thing I've started to do is I use a spray sunscreen, which I generally don't recommend. I'll do a normal cream sunscreen about 30 minutes before I leave the house, which is another good tip to try to apply it before you leave. And then once I'm out and about, and I'm going to admit I'm not the best, but I may not get every 30 minutes, but I try to reapply sunscreen a few times throughout the day. And what's made it really easy is just taking some of that spray sunscreen with me and just reapplying with that, and it just makes it quicker and easier, because otherwise I won't do it. But the other thing I do is fish with the buff if I'm going offshore, or they make a lot of really nice protective sun clothing. It's not really hot, it's breathable, but it does a good job of protecting you from the sun.
And that's what I didn't do this weekend. What I normally would do, I'd have a buff, and over the years I've learned to do that. And I didn't have it with me because it's springtime. I wouldn't think about the sun. Yeah. And then, boy, Saturday it just popped up there. It came up just like it does every day.
It'll get you.
I said, surprise you. I said, Dr. Sunseri going to get on to me now.
That's right.
But the spray is also spraying for kids. A lot of these just spray them instead of doing all that.
Yeah, I've always used the spray I have 2 girls and 2 boys, but the girls have the part down the middle, you know, and I'll run up to them and kind of catch that as they run past you, because they don't like to get sunscreen. They don't like sunscreen as much as the rest of us. So, but I do make sure, you know, and that early sun damage is important to prevent too. So on kids is very, very important. But apply it, and apply as often as you can, and try not to get those sunburns. Like I said, that's the worst thing for your skin.
Okay.
And if you have a spot, you know, get it looked at.
Yeah, and we're going to come back after this break right here. We're going to come back and talk about those spots and all. But anyway, when we come back, we're going to give away a Mother's Day, another Mother's Day giveaway with a pink rod and reel and a bucket full of goodies. So take a break, and we'll be right back. Okay, welcome back. We're going to get ready for giveaway. This is our fishing game time today, brought to us by Blue Water Outriggers. We're looking at 8:50 to 10:50 this morning, and then 9:13 to 11:13 tonight. Okay, so be aware of that. Those times are really important. Speaking of times, now let's go ahead and we'll give them. Of course, we went over yesterday what all was in this bucket, all kind of good stuff and all. And the Shakespeare rod and reel, and we're going. Now, Jeremy, on the drawing right here, we got to draw a girl's name. So if you don't draw a girl's name,
throw it on back.
Yeah. Well, so it was hard.
That's not one.
Okay. This is Mother's Day week. Now we're going to do the same thing on Father's Day. We got some cool stuff there.
Hey, we got one.
Okay, let's talk about Linda Cutts. Congratulations, Linda. Your prize will be here at Fox 28 Studio, and we got your name in it right here, so congratulations. Okay, now, one thing you were mentioning about the lips and all. Let's talk about that while I get this set up.
Yeah, so one thing in applying sunscreen, most people don't think about the lips, and so I was talking to Winston this morning and said, you know, I brought him a little lip balm that has some sunscreen in it, and you can buy them over the counter, but it is important to remember to put sunscreen on your lips. It's an area, if you're not covering it with the buff, it's an area that a lot of people don't think about. And I do a lot of surgery on lips for that reason. And a lot of people come in and they have a lot of scaliness or thickness in their lips that end up being squamous cells. So I always tell people, don't forget to apply sunscreen to the lip area.
Awesome. Now listen, he just sent me this picture. This is amazing, this picture he just sent me. So we're going to tell us about this picture right here, okay?
So this was a photo that just came out in a recent medical journal, New England Journal, that shows a lady who had, this was her, you can see the left side of her face is the driving side, and the right side has been somewhat protected. And so this just illustrates, even with windows, you know, your driver's side window, you're still getting UV exposure through that. And it also illustrates the impressive sun damage that can be caused on somebody's face just by extensive sun exposure. So you can see the difference in that. It's almost looks like 2 different people, and that left side is just from sun damage and sun exposure, UV exposure.
That's amazing. That is truly amazing. And again, you don't really think about it while you're driving, really.
Exactly.
And, okay, we got about 3 or 4 minutes left. So what would you want to tell people about when they come see you? Of course, they make an appointment and all that, of course. When you see something serious on them, you're going to take care of it right away, aren't you?
Absolutely, yeah. If we've got a problem, there's a few things that are emergencies, and sometimes things that are emergencies to some folks aren't emergencies to us as physicians. But the biggest thing we worry about is, of course, melanoma. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's difficult to say what's melanoma and what's not. I always encourage people to do their own skin exams, look over your own skin, have a spouse or significant other look over your skin for you. And if you see something that's concerning that you don't know what it is, get it looked at. But I think by and large, if there's something that's there, we'll take care of it. I don't care if, you know, like I said, if it's a money issue or an insurance issue, don't let that bother you, because that's not going to do you any good if you aren't alive to spend it. Yeah, so, true. But and I always try to take care of people. Most folks, you know, most physicians will go out of their way to take care of you if you really need something done. So don't let that be a barrier to getting it looked at. Get it looked at if you have an issue that you're concerned about. That's
a good point. Now, what part of the body? I know we can't see our back most of the times. Our wife or husband looks at our back and all. What part of the body really? Would you say the one part of the body really has more I know the face, of course, but
Right.
what other part we don't really aware of that might have problems?
Yeah, so my biggest focus is the head and neck.
Okay.
And one of the reasons is that obviously is a visible area that gets a lot of sun exposure, and like that photo illustrates, that's where you're getting a lot of sun damage on that head and neck area, but it's also the more dangerous areas, I think, in terms of cancer. So when people come in and they've got lots of skin cancers, the area I focus on first is just cleaning up the head and neck. But the back of the legs is another area where folks get a lot of sun exposure, and especially it tends to be a higher risk area for women in melanoma, but also men get melanoma. They're more prominent in men is on the back, and in terms of melanoma risk. But and it's difficult to look at your back, but you can. I check mine in the mirror, and
Okay.
I've had a couple of melanomas. And I found them both by just looking in the mirror before showering, and I thought, well, that looks like a new spot.
Yeah.
And so just looking yourself can be very beneficial.
Even you as a doctor get them too. I mean,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You grew up in Utah, right?
That's right.
And we were all, a lot of Florida folks. So the big thing though is get it is prevent it, and the survival rate to get it early. The survival rate is so strong. That's a big deal. Get it early.
Amen. Yeah. So all of melanoma, it depends on the depth of the tumor in terms of how aggressive it is and how we treat it. And so the thinner it is, meaning the earlier you catch it, the higher chance of survival and the better chance you have of getting rid of it without long-term problems and more extensive surgery. So finding it is half the battle.
Oh, great. That's great stuff, Jeremy. You know, we're so proud to have Dr. Jeremy Sunseri as part of our Panhandle Outdoors team and all. He sponsors the show, and he's part of it. He's a real person. If you don't believe that, check the catfish story again. Real things happen. And I know I've talked to a lot of different patients that watch the show. A lot of your patients now, and they are so pleased and just feel so thankful to have you in town.
Well, I can't tell you how much I appreciate having the fishermen come into my office, a lot of them from this show, and I just always love seeing them. The problem is all I want to do is sit down and talk fishing, and but it makes my job a joy, so I enjoy having y'all as
Well, you're going to really have a fish story now to talk about.
Oh boy, never hear the end of it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it,
Right.
Winston, as always.
All right, folks. Thank y'all for watching Panhandle Outdoors. Tomorrow now we'll get another giveaway, big fishing report, all kind of exciting things wrapping up Mother's Day week on Panhandle Outdoors. Do something good today for your fellow man, and God bless.
Thanks for watching America's only daily outdoor TV show, Panhandle Outdoors with Winston Chester, featuring hunting, fishing, and other activities and information to help you enjoy the great outdoors. Join us next time for Panhandle Outdoors.